Today on the Diz List, we talk about the best things to do with teens at Walt Disney World.
To the Diz List, the podcast that lists everything in Walt Disney World. I'm Nick.
And I'm Rob, and today we're going to talk about teens.
Last week we did stuff about young travelers. This week, we're going to switch it up a little bit. I thought that this was probably a good idea. Not that we had intended on making it a series, like a two-part series, but I definitely think that it's something that we needed to address because it is different, and we are currently in that group.
Well,
I'm half in that group. You're fully in that group.
Well, also, our careers, we are both high school teachers. So we are both experts in Disney and
I don't know if
teens.
we're experts. I haven't quite figured them out yet.
No, neither have I. We've been doing this for long enough, too.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. And then next week we're going to do senior citizens and what to do with them at Disney.
Yes, yeah.
How to wheel them around.
That's not nice, Rob. I've traveled with, I guess, depending on what your definition of seniors are, I've traveled with two. So
I mean, it's funny with me because both my parents are seniors as well, and they can. Well, my mom she can cruise. She can cruise. She's got a ton of energy.
Yeah.
My dad can too. They're both
right.
active and athletic, and it's great. So. Yeah. Not everybody's are. So
no, I know.
Yes, I apologize for picking on people.
No, you're good.
Wheeling people around. I know some people.
I mean,
I'm just joking.
It's probably safer than trying to walk down Main Street with those train tracks. So
yeah.
You have some news.
Yeah, I have a couple things. One of which we talked about last week, and that was that Smuggler's Run is going to be making a change. They're going to be adding Grogu and the Mandalorian. And the actual, the ride itself. So you enter Smuggler's Run, pretty much is going to be the same. But when you enter in the cockpit and go to do the game portion of it, that part's going to be different. And they announced 3 different places that they're going to go to. And it's really interesting because this Mandalorian and Grogu series is a new franchise that, I don't know if you call it a franchise. Sure, we can.
I mean, Star Wars is the franchise.
It's Star Wars. It's a Disney property. It's doing really well. People really like it.
I think it's well done.
It is.
Jon
Favreau's
done a great job.
But the interesting thing is the current version, you fly through a place called Corellia. And it's like Han Solo's home world. Mm-hmm. And not many people are going to know that. If you're listening on the podcast, maybe you know it, maybe you don't. Doesn't matter if you do or not. But that's where you currently go and fly through.
Right.
And it's not something that many people connect with. You're just kind of flying through an industrial area. But think about the exciting part when you go on to Star Tours. When you're on Star Tours, you can be a casual Star Wars fan.
Right.
And all of a sudden, you're somewhere you've seen in the movie. Although, to be fair, Corellia was featured in the Han Solo Solo movie.
Yeah, but it's not like in Star Tours going through Hoth.
No. And people
like,
would recognize that easily, or even like the prequels, people are still excited about that. So I think it's interesting because they're taking something current and they're taking something from, the original franchise from, 70s and 80s. And I think that's kind of fun that they're bringing those two worlds together. I believe they showed footage of Tatooine, which is from multiple movies.
Yeah.
We'll say the first one. Hoth, which is oh no, that's not true. I don't think it's Hoth. I think it's Cloud City. We talked about that last week.
Yep.
And then Endor is the forest planet with the Ewoks. So
they showed Endor too?
That's what they showed footage of, yeah. I saw a little freeze frame of it. It looked kind of Endor-ish, but it looked like something was exploding. It was just a freeze frame. Mm-hmm. And the person who was reporting the news said it was. So maybe it really isn't, but I believed them.
Yeah, I think this could add to the rewritability of it.
Definitely.
We actually talked about it last week that it needs to be more than just Bespin.
They need to do that with lots of rides in Disney.
Yeah, I mean, give it the treatment that you gave Cosmic Rewind, where it's like, what am I going to get this time?
Yeah.
And when you have that that mystery, if you will, now it's gotta collect them all. Now it might be not rewritable after you've done them all. Maybe some people are like that with Cosmic Rewind. They just want to go and get all the songs, and
Yep.
which is why I think Cosmic Rewind needs to redo the soundtrack every once in a while.
Yeah.
But
or even rotate one song through.
Yeah, I
that,
agree.
Hopefully that Blondie one.
Yeah.
Anyway, I got another one here.
Yep.
The other one is today. The day we're recording is March 16th.
Yes.
Today is the last day of operation for It's Tough to Be a Bug.
Correct.
Are you sad?
No. Not at all. Not in the least. Last time I did that show, the seats weren't working. Like some of the seats worked, some of them didn't. For like the last scene, the water spray didn't work. The animatronics were not looking good. So no, I'm not in the least bit disappointed. I am skeptical, however, about what this re-theme is going to be like.
This attraction to me has always just been so perplexing, and it's because who makes a ride that's steered towards kids? It's from it's for all ages, obviously, but kids are going to want to go to the majority of these things. When you go to Haunted Mansion, the expectation is it's going to be scary. Tower of Terror, it's going to be scary,
Tough to be a bug. Oh, good. It's good for my kid.
Yeah. Then they go in there and
they
it's
drop
frightening.
a Black Widow from the ceiling.
I'm just surprised that it got to this stage and they didn't. I don't know who was in those meetings, and Joe Rohde is seen as like this genius, and he is. But it's funny that one kind of squeaked through. And to be fair, this is not the first time that has happened in Walt Disney World, because Stitch's alien encounter was also, and before that it was
even worse.
Yeah, it was Alien. Oh, it had a really goofy name. Alien Encounter. I don't know.
Either way, it was scary.
That one was scary too. Did you ever get to do that one?
No.
Yeah. I got to do both, and they were both. Scary. It goes pitch black, and there's an alien kind of like breathing down your neck. It's pretty wild. Even when it was Stitch, it was scary.
Right.
So anyway,
it's just I understand the idea that you want to make it a little bit of a thrill thing, but like that the Tree of Life one does. It's weird to me.
Yeah.
You have an attraction in the park's centerpiece.
Right.
And
it's like Spaceship Earth. Imagine if Spaceship Earth was like that.
Yeah. Or if Spaceship Earth being quote unquote boring, which I know some people think it is. I don't.
To each his own. I don't.
But but that it matches what it was on the opening day. You hate to see them have to change this opening day attraction, but it was not good.
No.
In my opinion, and it makes sense. I have a piece of news.
Sure.
Ish. DVC has been opening up, and they mentioned they were going to do this. Member lounges inside the parks. They just announced this week they've got the Magic Kingdom one coming. And here's my take. Right, their idea is let's have a perk for membership. The problem with this is twofold. It's a perk for some of the members. So they are. This is only for direct membership. You have to have 150 points of direct member points. Direct means you bought them directly from Disney. So you're looking at spending anywhere from $200 to $250 or more, depending on the incentives at the time, per point. And then you get to go into these lounges. Okay. I have an issue with the fact that my dues, which I know my dues aren't the ones paying for this technically, but my dues are different than somebody else's dues. Because once I own the points, we both pay the same annual dues.
Right, but since you didn't originally purchase them from Disney.
But somebody did.
Yeah.
This is my thing. My points, Disney got their money for my points, right?
Yeah, see, I understand your point. It's a good point.
Disney got my money.
Sure.
For my dues and got the original purchaser's money for those points. How are my points different? And these people, like, they're trying to get people to buy more direct, and I understand why. Here's how you do it. Don't charge stupid prices. The fact that I can go online right now
and
purchase Animal Kingdom points which are good till 2057. 57? Maybe 54, but I think it's 57. I can buy them at $90 a point. Or I can put in a request with Disney, because it's a sold-out resort. I can put in a request with Disney, and they can charge me $230 a point.
What makes sense, folks?
Yeah. I can buy Aulani, which is still actively selling through Disney, for $205 a point. Or I can go on DVC resale market and buy them for $95 a point or $100 a point.
Wow.
So the reason that they're sitting on all these points is because they are charging too much for them. Now, here's my thoughts on why they're doing it. When they have these points that they have declared as part of the resort that they have not sold yet, they're the owner, they're paying for the dues, but those rooms don't go unoccupied. Those rooms get sold by Disney at a cash rate, which is essentially they're renting out their own points.
Okay.
There are a lot of people who don't realize you can rent DVC points from an owner like me.
Mm-hmm.
And so they'll call and be like, I really want to stay at, for instance, Riviera, but I'm not DVC. Oh, don't worry, you can do that. And they'll charge them like over $1,000 a night for those points. Whereas they could rent from an owner for half that.
Yeah, there's multiple websites too. I mean, we're not affiliated with one, and I look at them at a regular basis. But there's so many. You just Google DVC rental, and then make your choice.
And so back to my original point of these lounges that they're creating, they're segregating certain parts of the membership, and on top of that, like, there's not even a guarantee. They're getting people to buy this, and like, it doesn't say anything in your contract about your guarantee of these lounges. They have taken them away in the past. Like, there was a DVC membership lounge at the top of Bay Lake Tower that was available for everybody. They took it away. They brought it back. It's villains themed, but you have to be a direct member. Mm. And on holidays, they take it away, and then they rent it out. They charge people good money for tickets to go up there.
Jeez.
Not always, but they have in the past. So It's not a guarantee because it's not in our contracts. They're tricking people to pay between 2 and 2.5 times as much for these points. And like, then they treat you like I'm sorry, you already got the money.
Yeah.
You had the money my points were worth. I'm still paying you dues. I guess the people who owned it could have just like went bankrupt and went back to you, and you'd have to pay the dues. But like, now they're still, it's so bizarre to me. So that's just a piece of news that also kind of irritates me. But I wanted to bring that up because, every once in a while, a little DVC, Disney Vacation Club news.
No, and I think about that a lot too. Even though I don't own DVC and you do, I'm sure there's lots of people who listen that do. And from time to time, we do an episode that kind of explains how it works. Yeah. It's very complicated.
It can get very complicated.
It is. And for years, I did not get it and didn't understand. And the more we've done our DVC episodes, I'm starting to. I'm not a pro. No, if someone has a question, go to Nick on that one. But I'm getting it now. But I don't know. My 2 cents, honestly, Nick, is it's mega complicated. And for an average Joe like me, who's not like in advanced math, to me it's just like, wow, this is so complicated. I don't even want to deal with this.
But you save you will save a ton of, like, if you're somebody who's going to a moderate or deluxe resort every year or even every other year, you can save a lot.
But I'm also somebody who's like, well, this way's easier. For some things.
Well, like just and we'll head off to the halftime show after this, but just so people can understand.
Yeah.
My family this summer is not going to Orlando. We are going to Oahu. We are going to Hawaii. And it's going to cost me less to go to Hawaii with flights and buying food and everything else over in Hawaii. It's going to cost me less than Hawaii for the same amount of time as it would cost me to go to Disney. It's going to cost me less. My vacation this year to Honolulu, or technically Ko'olina, to Aulani Resort, which is Disney owned and takes my DVC points, is going to be cheaper with my flights and food, because when you go to Disney, you've got your tickets and food. There is Honolulu prices anyway. So like that's one of the benefits of DVC. Yep. So thanks, folks, for listening to me rant about that. But anyway, we're going to head off to the halftime show, which is brought to you by our patrons. You can become a patron over at patreon.com/DizListPod. You can do that for free. If you do it for free, please let me know what your Instagram handle is so I can go ahead and add you to our close friends list. I've had a couple people reach out this past week and say, hey, I joined for free. Add me to your list, and I quickly go ahead and add them to our close friends list so you can see interesting stuff on Instagram as well. We're trying to be a little bit better about adding different things up there. But
and Rob's band pictures too. Sometimes.
And Rob, yeah, sometimes I'm like,
no, why not? Who cares?
Yeah, you guys are part of our friend group and our family, so we really appreciate it. So we're gonna head off to the halftime show, and we'll see you right after this. Welcome back. Today, in the second half of our show here, we are going to be discussing the things you should do with a teenager, which is different than last week when we talked about things, last week we talked about young kids.
Yeah.
This week we're going to be talking about teens.
We're laughing, folks, not because teens are funny, which some of them are, but we are laughing because this is what we do for a living, is work with teens. So I don't know if that necessarily makes us good at this advice or bad, or who knows.
So really quickly, last week I said, just know your kids. Well, good luck knowing a teenager, because 5 minutes from now, much like the weather, it's probably going to be different what their opinion is.
Yeah, and that's a perfect segue to my first one. Is my best advice is try to involve them in the planning.
100%.
In general. And that is, what rides do you want to do? What restaurants do you want to go to? And the one that I've done quite a bit is when we're trying to book a resort. And this was true last time when we ended up doing the one that was over by Disney Springs, the Wyndham Garden. What I did was, my kids can be particular. I called my daughter and I said, what do you think of this? And I showed her the video for Wyndham Garden. She goes, this is really nice. Yeah. I said, yeah, it is. Is this a place you might want to stay? She goes, yeah, this is really good. I like it. And then I had the video on. My son walked by. I said, what do you think? He goes, of what? I said, one of the places we're looking at potentially staying. And it was just, a random YouTuber walking through, doing a tour, showing what everything looked like. And both kids were like, yeah, that sounds good. So even though I kind of gave them, here's your choice. I mean, if they said no, we would go to a different one. But at that point, I felt like my kids would buy in, and I had their approval. They were comfortable and knew where we were going, and it wasn't kind of a surprise. Well, sometimes surprises are good, but not always with teens. What is this place? Yeah. Where do we show up? This place is a dump. Yeah. My kids don't sound like that, but some of our students do.
Yeah. I mean, I would say that involving them in the planning. You can do that with younger children, not young kids, but like younger children as well. But when it comes to a teen, like you don't know what they're comfortable with. So like you have a son and a daughter, and presumably when you're choosing a hotel room, you have to decide they have to say whether they're comfortable with the sleeping arrangements that you have, right?
Yep.
And so allowing them to be part of that decision-making process also safeguards you against why do we stay here? Well, you said, you said you liked this.
Well,
you helped pick it.
To jump in there too, it's related to one other note that I had here was, if you're going to stay at like the All Stars or Art of Animation or one of those places that has, the giant Mickey Mouse sculptures, statues, you want to make sure that they're okay with that, because a lot of times they might want something a little bit more, cool or grown up, or if you can't afford to stay at, deluxe Grand Floridian or something like that, if you can't, Show them Port Orleans. Show them
The Caribbean beach.
Yeah, that's a perfect one too.
Coronado Springs.
Show them the video. Say, yeah, what one would you guys like? Oh, this is cool. Oh, look at that giant, Mayan temple by the pool. That looks great. I can climb up and jump off of it.
Even within
don't do that, folks.
Yeah, even within the value resorts, there are ones that are less kiddish. I mean, they're all kind of like over the top theming.
Yeah.
But they, am I thinking your daughter wants to sleep in like a princess room? Probably not her style, but maybe your daughter is like that. I don't know.
Maybe.
I just think that there are places to stay on property and off property that are certainly better than some of the ones that maybe you stay at when you're with a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old. Like, things change, both the size of the humans you're bringing with you and also like just their desire. For instance, okay, you stay at the Poly. Let's say you have the money to stay wherever you want. You stay at the Poly. You're right across from the Magic Kingdom. It's so cool. Well, as you get older, kids might want to do more things at different places around property, or maybe not even on property. So now,
or we already went there. Let's try something else.
Like Old Key West now, or Saratoga, isn't as off-putting because they're cool with going different places and doing different things now. They don't need to spend time on Main Street.
This isn't necessarily in order, but that you also accidentally did a great transition there, because if you stay at Saratoga Springs, it is literally walking distance to Disney Springs.
That's a big part of one thing that you should do with teens.
Right.
And spend more time at the Springs. Entertainment in the evenings.
Oh, yeah.
There's
entertainment, shopping, food. I mean, you name it.
Everything about the Disney Springs area is geared toward, I would say, the kind of person who likes a chill vacation, but not necessarily like the kickback on a beach. Like it reminds me of if you're a Myrtle Beach family, and you go down there, there's this Broadway at the beach is like this huge outdoor mall. Disney Springs is just the same thing. It's just for Disney. And there's a lot, I know this is on our list somewhere, but like you can be a little bit more free with your teens too. And doing it at Disney Springs is kind of like, sorry, I didn't mean to steal our thunder.
We're perfectly transitioning because that is next. Go for it.
I just think that like allowing your teens to do what they want to do at Disney Springs is very easy to it's a lot easier. It's safer. It's not, you're still at Disney. I'm not saying like let your 10-year-old, 12-year-old, 13-year-old even go on their own. But like, if I want to sit down at Raglan Road or Hole in the Wall, which is like the outdoor bar area, or I want to sit down at City Works and have a drink because it's like 125 degrees, surface of the sun hot. But my son wants to go and check out, hey, Dad, I really want to get a new pair of sunglasses. Or I want to go check out and get new shoes or new sandals over at Havaianas. Like, cool. I'm going to be here. Go and do it and get back. You've got 30 minutes or whatever you've got. They're not off getting in trouble.
No, and the nice thing about Disney Springs and the parks has the same thing is it's kind of, you're closed off by security. It's tricky to get in and out of Disney Springs. You have to go through security every time. And even if you're in the hotel next door, like we were, we had to go up the staircase and across the bridge and back down. No matter what, we still had to go through security every time to get in and out Disney Springs. And I get it. This isn't me complaining. It's me saying, hey, if you're eating at restaurant X and they want to walk over and get Legos, it's not a big deal. Yeah, I mean, it could be. It depends on your parenting style too, but that's also a choice.
But like, and it's not just giving kids freedom. When we put that on our list, I don't think it was just putting it on our list for Disney Springs. Like, you can give kids freedom in the parks. If I'm staying over at, let's say, Beach Club or Boardwalk, and my 15-year-old, right? My son's going to be 14 soon, but I would trust him at that age too. But like, I want to go in and get something to eat over in the France Pavilion, or
I would say he'd say, I want to go ride Remy.
Yeah, or maybe
because it's so close. Remy's right there.
Or I want to jump on the Skyliner and go over and do X in Hollywood Studios. Okay, bud. Like, I don't necessarily have to go with them. And then when you're in the parks itself too, it's another thing is like, I'm going to sit here, and people watch, or I'm going to go, I want to ride Tower of Terror. And my son says, I don't like that ride. I want to ride Toy Story. I want to ride Slinky Dog. Okay.
Go for it.
Go for it. Like, you know your way around the park. You have your own phone at this point.
Well, we have a story of that.
Yeah.
When Nick and I went together, I have an older daughter. You have a younger daughter. And
Yes.
they get along great.
Yep.
And when we all decided to go on
Tower of Terror.
Tower
It
of Terror.
was Tower of Terror.
we had my daughter, my son didn't want to ride it either.
Nope.
He's a teen also. He's like, not my thing. They don't like drops, and that's fine. And your daughter didn't want to go on it. She now loves it.
Yeah.
But at the time, they went off and they did photo pass. They
Yep.
got snacks.
Yeah.
It was great because I think at the time, oh gosh, my daughter's maybe 15 or 16.
I think she was 15.
Yeah, and that was fine.
Yeah.
We know that they're okay. We know that they're in the park. There's security,
Mm-hmm.
and can bad things happen? Sure, but the chance is very slim.
Yeah.
So again, it just depends on your parenting style. So
Right. And also,
I thought I would bring up that story too.
You got to know your kid too.
Yeah.
If your kid's going to be somebody who's going to go off and get in trouble, then probably don't want to do that. But what's next? I forget.
So I have some others, and this one probably depends on having a vehicle, but
Okay.
it doesn't necessarily. So I said things outside of Disney. So when I said
Yeah.
you may need a vehicle, it depends on each one. I'll
Well,
go through each one.
Uber
and we'll talk
now.
about it.
I mean,
So Outlet Mall we usually go to, and it's the Vineland Mall,
yeah.
and it's another outdoor one, and it's not very far. I mean,
No.
in all reality, I would maybe you could walk.
What?
But yeah, you probably could if you look at it on a map.
Yeah,
it's a long walk, but my point is, could you walk it? Sure, it'd probably take you a couple hours, but and not in the heat. I know you're laughing, but my point is, and not to walk there.
No.
My point is it's very close.
Yeah, it's close.
That's what I'm trying to
I
say.
know,
here.
I get what you're saying.
I'm not saying Nick walk there,
Right.
In the 100-degree heat. I'm
Yeah.
saying it's close. So that is something you could take, ride share over to.
I mean, you can walk anywhere if you got the time.
You could, but this one is trying to make a point that it's close. The next one is there's a bunch of really great beaches in the area too. If you want to go and do a beach day, Coco's the closest. That's a great one. There's Ron John Surf Shop.
Is Coco closer than Vero?
I think so.
Okay.
There's Coco. It's because we've gone fishing there a bunch of times with family. Very close to that's Cape Canaveral. Daytona, I think, is
Daytona's
a little
further
further north, and then
Yeah.
I think New Smyrna's in the middle. And those are all good ones that I've been to that I would recommend. Probably wouldn't want to do a ride share out that far.
No,
You could,
no.
but
Especially not to Daytona. That would cost you a lot.
that's pretty far. But you could do a beach.
Yep.
That's an option too. Universal Studios. I'm sure that cars are used to going back and forth between Universal and Disney all
Yeah.
the time.
Yeah.
That's not too far. That is not walkable.
No.
But it's definitely doable and wouldn't be mega expensive for a ride share. So
No, I don't
that's
think so.
doable too.
Yeah.
If they're like, this is all kid stuff, I don't want to do this. Let's go do, Jurassic Park.
I mean, that's
or-
something you'd have to plan, obviously.
Yeah.
I mean, because you'd have to have. I mean, you wouldn't. I guess you could.
Well,
buy
if you have a
day
day
ticket.
off, you could buy
day
tickets that
so
day.
that's Not cost effective, but yeah.
And then another that I threw on there, if you have sports fans like I do and you
Yeah.
do, and they're a fan of the NBA, my son and I love watching basketball. Well, my wife and daughter do too, to be fair. We love the NBA. We would love to. I don't know if I've ever been to an Orlando Magic game. I don't think I have.
Well, I'll go further. It doesn't have to be just the NBA because if you're there this time of year,
Soccer.
well, you could go.
Yeah,
Orlando.
don't they
FC.
have pros that?
They
what are
do. No,
the
they
purple-
do. They do. They have the Rain and the FC.
Yeah.
No, they do. That's not what I meant though.
Oh, okay.
I mean along
Yeah.
the fact of that. Right now, spring training is going on.
Oh,
If
baseball.
you're going to drive
Right,
to
right.
a beach, you
Yeah.
could easily drive to some of those other places. You can get to a lot of different complexes for baseball too. So that is something you could do off property for sure.
Where do the Mets go? Because I know you know this answer.
Port St. Lucie.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think Yankees are in Tampa Bay.
Yeah, not really Tampa Bay, but yeah,
Okay.
sure. Okay, so going off the resort is certainly something that I believe teens might want to do. But if you want to stay on resort, one thing I would say is that what changes when you get to a teen level is the dining. Okay. Specifically, like, so I'll use my situation as a perfect example. My daughter's going to be 10 this year. If we're going to Disney, actually the same is true on resort at Alani, but if you're going to Disney, a 10-year-old is an adult. And so, and you can't really fudge it because when you show up at these restaurants, they have your kid's age on file.
Everything's on, yeah. You can't
so,
fake anything.
You go in, you know, whatever, like, am I really going to want to go to, say, like Narcoossee's, Citrico's, even like the buffets, like especially the buffets, actually Tusker House, with a 10-year-old who's going to eat the same amount they ate a year ago? No, I don't want to do that because it's going to cost me $20 to $30 or even $40 more for that child, you know, who's now considered an adult. Or doing like the dessert parties. Like dessert party, one of my biggest gripes last year why I didn't want to do it was because I'm paying the same amount for my son as I was for me, and part of the adult price includes alcohol. And you clearly like Disney's got this wrong. Okay, I've said that for many years that Disney has this wrong. They should have 3 tiers. If you want to have like a child, teen, adult, that's fine. I can get behind that. But your options for dining change to, you know, when you have that teen who's actually, I mean, our sons, we talked about this before we went on air, was like our sons could eat us out of our, you know, house and home.
They can eat.
Like
they're growing so fast.
Yeah, so it's like one of those things where if I get a buffet, my son's going to eat more money's worth of food than I am. Mm-hmm. So he's definitely getting more value out of it than I am even. So it changes when you hit that teenage years where, and they also can respect the food a little bit better, right? So like a 12-year-old sitting down at Narcoossee's might not totally understand that the filet that they're eating or that the fish that they're eating. Like my son he loves that kind of stuff, but not all kids do. Most kids don't.
Yeah.
And so like it changes the dining that you'll have. So I would say that's another one I'd add on there that when you get to teens, ask them where they want to eat and let them pick one. Let them I think it's important. Don't tell them no.
Well, speaking of knowing your teens, you said this one earlier, and I took a note because I didn't think of this, but this is a great one. Is you mentioned festivals, and I'll kind of start and I'll let you finish here. Is we have kids that love art. They're artsy kids. Yeah. They love music. They love drawing. Both of our kids.
Yeah, absolutely.
Both love that stuff too.
Fine arts.
And you had brought that festival and how much our kids would like it. Oh, but not everybody would.
Right. Know your kid.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they always call it farts. Festival of the Arts. But
God, I've always wanted to go.
It's just at such a bad time, and it's also the shortest one.
I know, and we're both teachers, and that January month we have midterm exams. Some of us, like me, maybe you too, have semester classes where it's like the first day of school all over again in January.
Yeah, or you have like. It's also tough because it's in the middle of winter sports seasons.
Yes.
So if your kids are playing winter sports,
you can't. Well, you can take them out, but if they're playing a varsity sport, I wouldn't recommend.
Yeah. For all you people who don't know, if you want your kid to have a little bit more playing time, probably not a good idea to pull that one. This coming from a varsity coach.
Without being specific, I know at one point throughout history, I'm not even going to give a time. There was some people that did a vacation right before sectionals, which is like kind of school championships, right?
Yeah.
And that these 2 people were an important part of the team, and they came back and they didn't play anymore because they left right at that time.
Like it's not necessarily a punishment to you, but somebody else is probably getting better while you're off gallivanting the world.
Yeah.
So I definitely think that like the festivals, knowing your kid, if your kid's a foodie, you know, plan your trip around the Food and Wine Festival. If you have a kid who's really into outdoors and like gardening and stuff, Flower and Garden is a beautiful festival. Mm-hmm. Or like teens who really would enjoy the Festival of the Holidays. Like you know your children, and whether or not the Epcot festivals.
My teens really loved Festival of the Holidays.
Yeah, I'm sure
because they love the decorations and they love the Christmas time of year.
Yeah, like
mine did.
I think it's knowing your children. If you're like, you know, I think they might like that particular festival. Plan your trip around one of those festivals. They're great. They really
Yeah.
are.
My kids didn't care too much about food and wine because things don't change.
Well, and they can't eat
too
half
much.
of it.
Yeah, that's true because we have dietary restrictions, but it doesn't transform Epcot
No.
as much as the other festivals do.
You are correct. It does. Like
So
walking around seeing all the art stands would be really cool
Oh,
for
I can't
Festival of the
wait.
Arts. I've been at Epcot at the tail end, so just after Flower and Garden,
mhm.
and the topiaries are up, and it's
Cool.
like so cool because the topiaries are there. I would love to see them in full bloom because at that point they're not at their prime.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not bad; they're still beautiful, but they're not at their prime because it's at the end of the festival for a reason.
Well, we have one more.
Okay.
And the last one is probably the most obvious, and that is teens love thrill rides.
Yep.
And there's a lot of them. I mean, I can rattle them all off here, but I'll do a couple highlights and ones that are it'll depend on your kid.
Yep.
So, like at Magic Kingdom, Space Mountain Tron, Mine Train, give or take. Tiana has the big drop. We didn't put Tiana on our young kids list.
Well, here's the thing, though. Teens now, they grew up with Tiana more so than they certainly didn't grow up with Song of the South. But
yeah.
none of us did.
Big Thunder, but here's one. Haunted Mansion and Pirates, although they're not thrill rides, they're cool. They're skeletons and, fun, scary stuff that teens might like still,
Yeah, especially if you have a Halloween-loving teen. A lot of teens love Halloween. So
Yes.
I think that's a good point.
Everest, Flight of Passage, Guardians, Test Track, Rock and Roller Coaster, Tower of Terror, Rise of Resistance. Smuggler's Run actually is good for teens because it's a video game ride.
Yeah.
And a lot of teens like video games.
I agree.
So Smuggler's Run is actually a good one to do. Maybe Slinky Dog.
Yeah.
It's kind of for everybody.
Yeah. Did you put Rock and Roller Coaster on there?
I did. I went through, I
Okay.
said it really quickly, yeah. But that's just, I'm sure I left one or two off of there, but
And I don't
those
want
are
to be.
your main thrill rides.
We don't want to be stereotypical because we talked about the following as well. If your teen says, I want to go ride the teacups, embrace it
Mhm.
because you don't have much time left with that.
Yeah.
I mean, to be perfectly honest, there's going to be nobody knows when that last time that they're going to want to ride that is. And so
Right.
because you don't know that, embrace that they want to ride Dumbo with you one more time.
Well, I think what's going to happen is they're going to be too big for that and they're too cool, but then it comes back.
yeah, but
It'll come back around 20 or so. You know what, Dad? I loved going on Dumbo with you. Let's go do that again. And then you're like, yes, it's back.
I agree. But you don't want to miss out on that last time as a
No, and I'm not
teenager.
saying that either. I'm just saying
It does come. It's
when
full
it
circle.
does happen, it'll be back.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like riding those rides with my brother or riding those rides with my mom when we went were just so much fun because it was ironic
Yeah.
in like the funny way. So I don't know.
So that's our list. And if you thought of anything that we didn't mention, we love hearing messages. We got one last week.
Yeah, and if you have
somebody mentioned something to us.
Yeah, and if you have teens, or if you have a friend who's traveling for the first time and is going with teens, or maybe they're traveling for the first time with teens, i.e., they've always had little kids, because a lot of people go every other or every second, every third, or whatever year.
Mm-hmm.
And so if this is their jump year, all of a sudden now they've got teens and they're worried. Disney still works. Just share this episode with them. So that's what I would say as well.
Yeah. Great.
So thanks, guys, for listening. We really appreciate it. But it's a great, big, beautiful tomorrow, and tomorrow's just a list away.
Tune in next time, and we'll see you real soon.